So if you're thinking to yourself, maybe you'd like to get a vacation rental and think that it's going to pay for itself and it's going to be the greatest thing, why don't you stick around and watch the rest of this video. So we didn't have the greatest drive on the way down from Ohio. It was foggy the whole way we came down here, a little bit of rain in and out, and then there was just unnecessary traffic on the way in, especially in Tennessee. They were filling potholes on the freeway. We got caught in a backup for about an hour just waiting for them to fill some potholes. Finally, the highway patrol came by and pulled the pothole truck off to the berm to let the traffic go through because we were just so backed up. We got here, it was a little frustrating when we got in and looked around because it seems that our cleaning has kind of gone downhill the last couple times we've been down here, and our normal cleaner who we had when we first started re-renting this place is gotten up in years and had some hip surgery and basically farms it out to other people. And we've noticed the last few times we came that it just wasn't up to par. Bathtubs weren't fully clean, or at least to our liking. The toilets looked all right, but if you looked at it kind of close, you kind of noticed there were maybe hairs here and there. A few other items. We found some of the floors probably had some spills. Somebody might have spilled pop or tea or coffee. Some of those areas were kind of sticky. Maybe it's something you could easily look over if you don't notice it. We ended up noticing is once you start noticing one thing, you start looking at other things with a fine-tooth comb. So this was the first time that Karen said to me, we should sell this place. So she was pretty frustrated with it. It's the end of January right now. Normally we have our HOA meeting towards the end of January. It gives us a chance to attend the HOA meeting and then also take down the Christmas decorations. But we got a lot of work to do also while we're down here, and the weather's not really going to cooperate too much if we want to try to go and do something fun like going to the national park. It's supposed to be rainy, pretty chilly, a couple days where there might be snow. So we're going to stick to the cabin most of the time. We're going to work on the inside, and we're going to do a lot of chores, just clean some stuff really good. I'm going to start washing down all the walls and just get some of the dust off of the seams of the cracks for the tongue and groove. And just go over that really good with some Mr. Clean and water. Make it smell lemony fresh in here. All the batteries need to be changed in the remotes. We have also a sensor for our weather station. We also have door batteries that need to be changed. DVD batteries, there's the TV batteries, there's the cable box batteries, and then another two set of remotes in the master bedroom. So we're going to change all that stuff out. There's batteries in our owner's closet door lock that needs to be changed. These are things that, you know, the batteries might last another couple months, or might be another 6 months, or even another year, but you really don't want to take a chance on any of these batteries dying when you're not here. Better to be proactive. We've had some issues with our security cameras. I needed to change the batteries in those also. One of them did go dead while we were gone, and then I was trying to use it sparingly because I know the battery was running really low, and it pretty much would not do anything like the last couple of weeks before we got here. So I changed out all the batteries on our security cameras. Also, we have some wired security cameras, and that wasn't working either. And that's the hassle of having stuff that works off the internet or stuff that you can control remotely. A lot of times you just need to reset something, turn something off and turn it back on, but you can't do that from Northern Ohio. So I'm putting another smart outlet in our closet that controls the network device that hooks into our security cam system, because that's usually the culprit. What happens is the power might go out, things will come back up, but they probably didn't come up in the right order, and that usually makes those wired cameras not work. So if I could take a smart outlet, turn it off, and then turn it back on, and reset that portion only, 9 times out of 10, that security system will come back up. So I'm going to install that. I've got a lot of work with the HOA while we're down here. We have our HOA meeting. I'm pretty much heading the meeting, so I have to come up with a presentation of what's been going on for the last year. So not only taking care of the rental cabin is a little bit of a hassle, but also I'm on the HOA and current HOA president, and we've got a lot of things that are going on too that take up a lot of time. For instance, these tanks behind me need to be moved up the street here into what's going to be a future water room for us, and hopefully give us a little bit more supply when it comes to the overwhelming demand we have with our water system. Basically, our well is way down there at the bottom of this mountain, and it's about a half mile as the crow flies. Now, the water system for the HOA comes from a well, which is down here towards the bottom of our mountain. Here is a holding tank, which is about 5,000 gallons, very tall. It accepts the water from the well into this holding tank, and then that is pumped up 3,000 feet up the mountain to a booster pump, which is up in them hills in that direction, about 700 feet in elevation up, and then 3,000 feet in length of pipe. Once it goes to that booster pump, it then goes to the top of our resort, another couple hundred feet, and then that's distributed out to the rest of the community. One of the big issues we used to have is power failures down here, and this is an area that's not very populated down here, so if there's a power failure, a lot of times it was last on the priority list to get repaired. So if there was a major disruption with a weather event and the power went out, this place might not get turned back on for 3, 4, 5 days. So we've had issues in the past where the power would go out and our resort could not get a water supply for 3 or 4 days. A lot of cabin owners would have to turn away renters or refund money because there's no water. So one of the things that our HOA did this year was add a generator to this building, runs off of propane, and should there be a long power outage event, it can run for a week straight on its own and still continue to pump water up to the resort. Even if there's no power on top of the resort, since most of our storage tanks are such high elevation that gravity can feed a lot of the cabins in our resort, might not have the pressure that we normally have, but it'll still be better than nothing. It'll fill toilets, you could probably take a shower, not with a lot of water pressure, but that is a plus in the event of a power outage. So one thing that's been occurring after the last couple of years is all these new cabins built after the wildfires. A lot of them were built larger than they were prior to the fires, and what that does is it increases demand of our water system. So instead of a cabin that used to be 2 bedrooms and maybe 2 baths, now it's 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, and it's increasing the capacity, but it's also increasing the demand of our water system. So the water, when it's being pumped from our well area up to the resort, it goes through just a 2-inch water line, and that's a PVC pipe. And it takes an enormous amount of pressure to pump it up 700 feet in elevation and 3,000 feet of pipe to get towards where our resort is, and then from there it goes to a booster pump and it finishes away to our distribution areas. But it takes a lot of pressure to get that water up on top of the hill. A couple things is the pipe is so small, only 2 inches, but it's also the elevation that comes into play. Now, even though it's a 2-inch pipe, you think you could get yourself 100 gallons per minute coming out the other end easy, but with that elevation gain, we can only get around 20 to 25 gallons per minute. On a good day, we can pump around 20 to 25,000 gallons of water up into the resort. But if it's a holiday or a very busy weekend at the resort, the demand can be upwards of 35,000 to 40,000 gallons, which is just not sustainable. So we have to come up with a way of getting more water on top of the hill. Our well's only going to pump so much. The capacity of our well right now is around 50 gallons per minute. But again, we're only getting 25 up to the top of the hill. We could still double our gallons per minute getting it up the hill, but we're gonna have to run a new line and replace this old PVC pipe. So I'm gonna walk with some of our maintenance guys and just see what's gonna be involved to walk the old water line and try to put a new one in, hopefully along the side of it. This is gonna be very time consuming. It's not gonna be an easy thing to do, but it's something that we definitely have to look at into the future, and it's gonna have to happen.
No, coyotes, they'll find a big hunt like that, and they'll have
All right, so we're going to start at the top and work our way down. It's easiest for us to hike down there. I'm going to document the height so I have an overall idea of just how much height, and then I'm also going to record the distance on my watch.
The Forestry Service come down here and ripped it up once, and then the fires burn it.
Yeah.
That's right now it is over here. We got a water line over there right now, so if you had all
It
this...
straightens out up there, so we may have been on top of it coming down through there.
Now the problem putting a new water line is we don't want to disturb the old water line and have to know exactly where that is at.
Grip on that wire, that's one of our signal wires.
Yeah.
Temporary run that never got permanently done. Box right here, that's what that hole is, that's where the line is.
Okay.
And that box burned out, and that's the old signal wire.
What was like putting the original water line in here, like rock-wise? So the two gentlemen I'm with, their names are Todd and Jimmy, and they were here at the very beginning of this resort when it was being developed. They helped put the water lines in, they helped blast rock with dynamite, and after our HOA was up and running and all the cabins were built, they pretty much hung around and maintained the area for us.
Like right here now, we're on top of the line, and as you can see, getting over there on that side, it's starting to get narrow with all these rocks. And we're probably right on top of the line right here.
Do you remember what the name of that pipe is that comes in the 300-foot rolls?
HDPE.
Okay.
Is a version, that's what the Tennessee wastewater uses.
Yeah. And that'll handle.
I don't know what kind of pressures though it handles.
Yeah.
You need to do the upper parts of this if you get a good enough trail to roll it out and hook it up, but you're going to need something that's going to be able to handle several hundred PSI down at the bottom.
Right.
For the first
for some reason
500 to 1,000 foot. And I don't know what that stuff will actually handle.
So we're thinking about using an HDPE pipe, and some of it will come in 3-inch diameters and also 500-foot rolls. So there's going to be less joints, and we need to find out if we increase the diameter, will we increase the gallons per minute?
You wouldn't be able to bring that roll in here and roll it out. You'd have to drag it up through there, or drag it down. Yeah.
Or unless you had it on a spindle, if they're 300 feet long a piece in different areas.
Some of them I think are 500.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's this power here?
That's your signal wire.
So the signal wire also runs the span of the water line, and it communicates with the pump so it can turn them off and on as needed. Now lightning has been an issue with us, especially being on top of a mountain. It's burned up our signal wire several times. We even tried using radio frequencies and just doing it wirelessly, and that was not very reliable either. So we're discussing if we open up a new trench for a new line that we should put that signal wire in there with a couple spares.
Water line's down in a hole right here. We've had it dug up right there before. Down here it gets a little harder, and then it'd be best if the guy could stay on this side of the creek all the way instead of crossing it and crossing it back. Now this section here is actually 3-inch.
Is it?
Got a gauge, and this is 3-inch schedule. 80 some of this here.
Is it a pressure gauge or just how many gallons are
Yeah,
flowing?
it's a pressure gauge.
Yeah.
So we can, when you have leaks, you can come in there and separate them and kind of see what's going on. So what we end up doing is shutting that pump off and shutting valves off and see if it holds in that section above the valve.
Uh-huh.
And if it leaks down below you and all that, and just chasing it until where you find the section where it's running and leaking.
Yeah.
Actually, when we first run this, all them boxes and valves weren't in here. And then it developed leaks here and there, and they come and put a bunch of them boxes and valves in there. There's one of the old lines there. That's the water line right there. You cover it up and then the next storm uncovers it.
Yeah.
We've stacked rocks and that's it right there.
Is that trying to keep it from separating? Or?
I fixed that right there. That's a repair coupling and it's dripping just a little bit under it.
Yeah.
Another
It's not
issue is we have
bad.
several breaks a year
And
with
I'll
the
use
water
them
line,
ratchet
particularly
straps to hold
closer
it
down to the
together.
bottom where the pressure is higher.
Still dripping, but it's not spraying.
It's on paper.
Well, that's what I mean. He put the water line down through there and then they done the easement 10, 15 years after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this his land. I mean, some of this land beside here is his. But I don't know if it all was or not, or
What ain't his is
that woman's, Aileen's, that he got the land from.
Shield.
We do have an easement for a lot of the property this water runs through, but we do have to make sure before we start tearing everything up that we have permission to do it. And that's not the way it was done originally.
That's an overflow there to let it blow off. Here, hold that for a minute. Let me throw this one over here on my gauge. Of course, you got mice living in all these too. And
Yeah.
whatnot. We always usually when we come down to here, we got insulation. We bring bags and keep replenishing it because they get wet.
Mm-hmm.
We usually dig all the, when they insulate them houses, they throw that trash away. We dig all that shit out of the dumpsters. We ain't
Yeah.
bought insulation for a few years. Like that up there at Jackson, when they tear that down, I'm gonna salvage all the insulation out of that underneath that floor up there.
Maybe you could put a little trailhead sign up top and make a Eagle Crest hiking trail out of this.
Only problem with that is even like that Chaz, you leave much of a trail there, and then he thinks he can ride his four-wheeler up and down through there. And you don't.
Don't want to do
He
that
was
with
actually turning around on that box and stuff. He said, and
yeah.
you know, we kind of don't want that too much. So,
Right. Would be worth running a new wire with new pipe.
well, we did that down here already, part of it.
Yeah.
This section here ain't, but from right down here down to the other part of the road we did, and then we reused the old. But I already have done that once, part of it.
Uh-huh.
And if we do a new line, we'll rerun one or two in it when we're doing it, you know.
Yeah.
Comes off there, and oh, right there it is, it's exposed. I ain't seen that for a while. Just done that in this last storm. Right there it is in the creek. Look at that, they rolled that
Oh,
rock
right
on
there.
it. Yep, that's it. And then it goes to this box right here. And this is the signal wire here, and this is the new section of conduit we've run from there down to the road down here. Filtered in, there was a lot of water coming down through here at one time, but it slowed down some.
And you still got to stay up on that side down through there somehow to stay off that line.
But if you could come down through there like you're thinking,
Stay up there.
and then stay on that side, down on this bench.
How far away from this line would you have to be safe of not
Yeah,
cracking
just,
it or
you know,
running
if
over
he
it?
could just run beside it.
Yeah.
You know, if he could just keep off of it,
Yeah.
you know. Like if he could stay from here 5 foot that way, you know what I mean? But it'd be, the wider the better.
Mm-hmm.
And where you get into some rocks and down there. Now if he could get up there and do it, then you stay plumb away from it.
Yeah.
But the farther the better. The farther you get down to bottom, the leaks make themselves pretty evident when they happen. But
Yeah.
from here on up, sometimes they get a little hard to find because they're not so obvious.
Have you ever considered like using dye?
What's that?
Have you ever considered like using a dye, like a green dye or something?
Well, and you can. We ain't never done it. We ain't never had to. But yeah,
Yeah.
and you could do that.
I mean, and
We
then
did.
you have to clear
We
it out
got
before it goes
chlorine
to
in
the
the
tanks
water.
and freak
Yeah.
people out. But
We got chlorine in the water, and if I get close enough to it and I have them packets, I can test the water. If I got a flow or something,
yeah.
and it'll test chlorine, but it don't.
Small leaks are another issue. We know there's small leaks in the water line, but trying to determine exactly where they're at, especially with all the little creeks around, makes it very difficult.
Leak, not
Right.
a water leak.
Right.
You
Right.
know, you introduce some dye in a water tank, and then the people in the resort are
Well, you'd have to cut it off at the
Yeah,
pass and
flush it out.
But
You could do that because we do have a blow off at the booster pump.
yeah.
You know, if we did need to find a leak that we couldn't find, that'd be a possibility. And like Leaky Mike, to get him down here, his problem with is he's listening. And so he's going to hear all this creak, and he ain't going to hear a leak too good, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because he's going to hear all that running.
Right.
So I don't know if he'd be very effective down here. Like I said, from here on out, when you get a leak, you can find it. But when you get up there, like going up that hill and stuff, you're right in the middle of where the pump's pumping and the booster's sucking. So it don't necessarily just blow it apart.
What's the best time of year to try to do this?
Just whenever. I mean,
Well, me personally, I wouldn't want to see you doing it in July or when it's 90 degrees out.
well, that's going to be the best time. But
Yeah.
I mean, your first process is going to be just get a trail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just going to have to get a trail from the top to the bottom
Mm-hmm.
and not destroy this one.
Yeah.
Then once you get that road trail, then you can start thinking about installing pipe. But you know, the first process, in my opinion, would be getting the trail. Just get it to where you know you can get something up and down through there.
Yeah. So if this
Without
stuff came in,
once you get that, you can run the pipe and signal wire and whatever else you're going to do, you know.
so if it came in 300-foot sections, or let's say 500-foot, would you just do a box every time there was
That would be some kind of junction box. That way you're,
with a valve?
that way
and
you could even put a valve, you know, that way you could separate them.
yeah.
But that would be the best thing. That way all your junctions is in that box. You can see them all if there's a leak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be the best.
What's the PSI for this stuff?
This one here, oh, the pipe rating,
Yeah.
that Schedule 80, it's like 400 or something, 400 or something
Okay.
on the Schedule 80.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought the other stuff was higher. But
If
I
we go with
can't
this
remember.
HDPE line, it also needs heat to melt the joints and put in your valves. So they basically are melted together.
You just keep one of them melting machines.
Well,
them fittings on
well,
hand
they do make them compression fittings though.
for it.
Yeah, like in repair companies, they got repressing fittings for them. You know, and I don't know what kind of pressure they'll like towards the bottom here. And I don't even know if that pipe's good enough for the bottom here.
Yeah, that's what
You know what I mean? That would be one thing you'd have to investigate. But they do have
What's the
compression fittings instead of them melt-ons.
what is the melt-on machine? Do you know how much that runs?
It's it's probably $1,500 or a couple
Yeah.
$1,000. I don't know. And then you'd
Wow.
have to have a generator too, because it's the one we used is 110 power source,
Yeah.
and we used a little generator with it when we got out in the woods over there.
Yeah.
They probably got one by now, batteries, don't they?
I don't know. That thing takes some power when it melts that. And it just runs up the inside of this ditch and right inside them rocks right there across that driveway.
Yeah. Okay, so that might be more than you want to know about what it takes to get water up to our resort. But water is critical for all our rentals and for the business. Without water up there, you wouldn't have those beautiful cabins. And it's a shame that a lot of people in our HOA don't realize that. A lot of people just own the property, they have some service take care of it, and they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and they really don't care, which is kind of a shame. Unfortunately, a lot of people in our development try to take advantage of our water system and waste a lot of water. We even had one person that had a pool delivered without getting approval from the HOA, and just didn't realize the demand it would put on our water system, and we put the kibosh to that as soon as we saw it was delivered. But they were ticked off that they couldn't install it. So we're up around the 24-minute mark. I got a lot to cover still. We got a lot of work to do down by the cabin yet. I've got some HVAC problems to attend to. We've got a lot more chores to take care of before we get out of town. We also want to replace our cleaner, so we're trying to find a new cleaner before we get out. So a lot more to cover. We'll probably pick that up sometime next week or maybe 2 weeks from now. I appreciate everybody watching. Hope you enjoy and subscribe to these videos. Click on that little bell when you want to know when a new one is coming out. And keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.